Leigh-Ann's story is one that many international students can relate to, full of hope and determination as she began her journey towards permanent residency in Canada. Despite her best efforts, one small overlooked detail led to a delay in securing her permanent residency status. Yet, through her resilience, she's uncovered valuable insights that could help you avoid the same challenges. In this episode, we're going to explore Leigh-Ann's journey, the key detail that can make all the difference, and how you can navigate your own path to permanent residency. Hello and welcome to As Told by Canadian Immigrants. I'm Christina McPherson, your host, and today I am here with Leigh-Ann, who is a temporary resident here in Canada, and we're going to talk about her journey here, coming to Canada, being in Canada, and where is she now, right? A lot of temporary residents are kind of in limbo. Is she one of them? And are we going to work towards getting her towards the PR status? Welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself first, right? I'm sure I didn't do justice introducing you apart from being a temporary foreign worker, wanting to get PR. But you came to Canada a while ago. But before all of that, who are you and what do you do?
I'm a Jamaican, but I spent some time living in Trinidad and Tobago, where I got the majority of my work experience and my study and my education done, and then I migrated to Canada when I saw the opportunity. I studied mass communication, and that's just an accumulation of video editing, of public relation, journalism, so it was a whole rounded program into things, but I found that my real love was in video editing and graphic design, so I pursued that more. And that's kind of why when I was looking at programs to get into here in Canada, I decided to go with the lifestyle media program at Centennial College.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did that start? So you thought about it, you're like, you know what, let me go somewhere else right now.
Mm-hmm.
How did that start? Did you get help? Did you go to a consultant, an education, somebody? And how did you choose Centennial?
It's so funny because the thing is I can be sort of a control freak when it comes to these things. So it's hard for me to put my trust in like immigration consultants, but it was my first option. So I actually went and researched some immigration consultants, and I found one person who I won't name, and they did a consultation. Yeah, consultation. But it was free, so I felt as if like they didn't want to pay as much attention because I wasn't paying. I kind of got a little upset over that, so I said, no, you know what, I'm gonna take the reins on this and try to read all the information and figure it out for myself.
Okay, so you did that. So you did they give you like maybe Centennial, and that kind of planted a seed for you?
Oh, no, actually it was a school recruiter that reached out to me.
On the internet? On email?
No, because after I spoke to the immigration consultant, I realized I had to figure this out for myself. So I Googled how to migrate to Canada and what was the best path for me.
Okay.
And then I realized that was the student path, because not only was it cheaper, I felt that it's a comfortable pace for me to go at instead of just going straight into like the express entry pool and stuff.
School was cheaper? School was the cheapest route?
Yeah,
we'll come back to that. Yes. We will come back to that.
But I did my research. I went on the government website and figured out which schools would get me to the postgraduate work permit, because I went through the entire process. Like, I studied the process that would get me to PR, and I was like, okay, so it's school, it's postgraduate work permit, then it's like getting the job, and then I'll get PR. So I said, okay, baby steps. I had my whole Excel sheet planned out
good.
on how I was gonna do this, and the first step that I took was, okay, what school? And they had a lot of options on the website, like they have the DLIs, the distance, what do you call that again? Designated learning, yeah. And so I went through the different lists, and I was like, but this is so much, like which one suits me, which one is better for me. And instead I went, I don't even remember how I learned about this workshop, like a live workshop.
Okay.
Or an information session. And I joined it, and one of the recruiters from that session, after the session was over, she reached out to me.
Okay.
And said, okay, are you interested in Centennial? Because this seems like it's in line with what you've studied from before. And I went through their website. I spoke with one of the professors at the school.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, this seems like an inviting place for a person just moving to Canada. It's welcoming to international students. That was one of my biggest fears.
Really?
Yeah. Everything. This is why I kind of didn't choose the US, because I know of like their discrimination.
Okay.
I don't know if to include that in the video,
That's
but
okay, you can.
yeah,
It's
so it made me a little bit afraid to do that, even though I have the majority of my family, like a big portion of my family lives in the US, like in New York and elsewhere, but I felt like it was a safer move to go to Canada.
Yeah, I think most of us kind of think that's an even immigration friendly
Yeah, that too.
towards PR. Okay, so now you got you applied to Centennial. Did you use the recruiter to help you to get in, or you just went on your own for that?
Oh, the recruiter actually helped me every step of the way, which I
Okay.
was so grateful for.
Okay.
Because yes, I could figure it out on my own as well, but it's so nice to have somebody there to help you,
Yes.
you know? So they put me onto the actual program at Centennial on which one would work for me, and I actually had to do a test at first. So it was an okay test. Like, it wasn't too intensive. They asked me to do like a basic English test, just to see which level I was at, and if I needed to do an academic English course along with the program.
Okay.
And then they also just asked me for like general information, my background and stuff like that, to see if I was actually a good fit for the program.
Okay. So you get in, the recruiter helps you get in, and now it's time to come to Canada, which your family was fully in support of.
Yes! Honestly, the biggest support is my mom, because as much as
They were back in Jamaica or Trinidad?
Oh, so my family, it's just like me, my mom, and my dad and my sister that are in Trinidad.
Okay.
And everybody else is back in Jamaica.
Got
and
it.
that's the way it's been since I was like 13 when we migrated.
Right.
But my mom, she was a big support for me, but also I felt as if she felt like I was moving away. And you know those whole fears about, oh my gosh, yeah, my baby, my darling is leaving to go do this amazing thing. It's not like I'm moving out of the house and going somewhere else. I'm moving a whole country. So there were her fears as well. And I felt as much as I am, overthinking things all the time, she's just as much overthinking things. So yeah.
It's a mom thing. All right. So now you're here. This is post-COVID, right? Post-COVID was like an interesting period for figuring out getting jobs, remote. Are you going to school online? Are you going to school in classes? And then also, like some lucky people, post-pandemic got work permit extensions. So were you in that batch? But also, like, what was it like now? You come to school, you've gone through school, and now it's time to transition to your post-graduation work permit, which was something that you did on your own?
Let me rewind for a bit, especially with the pandemic. I was lucky enough to be in the batch of students who were able to do their studies online, like fully online, and then come to Canada to graduate.
Oh, that's what you did?
Yeah, and still be eligible for postgraduate work permits. I think that's another thing what drove me to migrate to Canada, because they were making the process so seamless. Yeah.
Which is kind of the underlying part of the root cause of the problem that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Because when you have fully online, there is no capacity. You don't have to have seats, butts in seats, chairs, all of these things. And then everybody just comes and gets a postgraduate work permit and then they just work. So how was that? So you came when school was done?
Yeah, so it came down to the end of it. It's
Like, how much money did you save not living in Canada?
I know, right? But then, because I would have also, if I was forced to migrate sooner, it still would be economic for me because I had, my grandaunt here, so I could stay with her. But also, this was when they were now lifting all of the restrictions they had in place from before. So when I was about to graduate, this is when they were calling for all students to come back, like to come to Canada. And it was so scary for me because I had to decide between getting the vaccine, because they still required you to take the vaccine. And there were so many thoughts running through my mind besides just immigrating, because it was like, what's this vaccine going to do to me? Am I going to be okay with it? And in the end, like, it was so close, and I was like, I just have to go and do it and get this over with. And they also still required it for Arrive Can or something. Yeah, I think at the time,
Okay, so now you're here, and it's basically you graduate, and then now you have to just work. Is that how it kind of works?
But again, I say I was so blessed because as I got here, I was a month in, and I was living with my grandaunt. And I decided to just go to this very cute cafe, sit down again with my Excel sheets, and to blot out like what jobs I was gonna do. Okay. And from before, when I was in Trinidad, yes, I was working. I'm so grateful to have been working and staying at home to be able to raise that amount of money for me to survive in Canada without a job. So I still had those funds that were helping me along with the work experience to be able to get like a quality job. But this job I got was in corporate communications with an NGO, and it was only for like a small amount of time, like 9 months. So that would just hit the mark of the 1 year work experience I needed. And then I had to figure out what happens after that.
You did a 1 year program.
Yes.
Right? And so you got a 1 year work permit.
Yes.
And your work permits would have expired, except this is when it came in saying that you guys can extend your work permit for 18 months.
Yeah, I prayed. I mean, like, I'm not an over-religious person, but trust me, like, faith goes a long way. Yeah. And I said, okay, God, like, if you want me to do this, if you want me to go on this path, you gotta be there with me every step of the way. And that's why I say, like, in my whole journey, I'm so blessed to have been able to complete my studies online, to be able to find a job in a month in being in Canada, because I heard all the horror stories online. It's just been a really blessed journey.
Okay, good. So now the contract ends, you get a work permit extension, yay, bonus. And so you have like a little under a year left on that work permit, and you're still working towards permanent residency. So that was April. How has the job market been now post that contract ended? And how has it been for you on the immigration standpoint? So, like, I know you see all these changes happening. The latest ones have happened mostly in this year and not so much last year, but a little bit last year. With all these changes, how are you feeling? But also, like, first answer the how is the job market post that contract ended? And then we'll talk into like how are you feeling with all these changes.
Well, so it was a lot harder because I guess there were a lot more applicants who did the same process as me. We're also looking for jobs now, and there's even more coming in. So it was a lot like really tough because I was getting some interviews, but even those interviews that I got, they would say like, oh my gosh, you were the top 5 candidate, but we had to see these other people. They probably had more job experience than you in this specific area that the NGO is looking for. That's nice that they
gave you back, like, feedback though.
Yeah, which I asked for it. like because they made me do a written interview at first before getting to the actual interview, like the face-to-face interview. So, of course, I'm going to be like, what happened? So I emailed and I was like, thank you for the opportunity, but could you give me some feedback on how I can improve?
All right. So now it's journey to PR. And how are you feeling with all the changes right now?
I'm still so scared. Honestly, that's the biggest emotion. But I got here through faith. And I know that it's going to continue like that because I'm trusting God in this. But it's back to the whole idea of getting my Excel sheets out, just always putting in the effort, going to networking events, trying to meet people, make contacts. Yeah, and just making sure that I'm doing everything I possibly can to land myself in a job before my permit expires.
Yes. And you mentioned a key word, nice word that has come up in most of my interviews with here on our immigration stories. You said networking events. I met Leigh-Ann at a networking event. It wasn't themed as a networking event, right? But this is where I was so proud of her. She was one of the six under 35 people that were present at this event, right? And she came up to me, she spoke to me, she recognized me from YouTube.
Yeah, because I watched her YouTube videos actually on my way to Canada.
Okay, journey to Canada. So she recognized me, she came up to me and she spoke to me, told me a little bit about herself, what we do, and here we are. And not only here we are because we have some juice to spill coming up to the end of the video, but the Diaspora Town Hall, Jamaica Diaspora Town Hall. Now you may be watching this, you may not be Jamaican, and that's fine, right? Every community or every nationality that's here probably has a something of the sort where you can plug into, you can go and you can network with your fellow diasporans. But also there's other events, right? And here she comes to a town hall meeting with our Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, or Consul General or High Commission, and how much percent is this now? Let's say 96% of the room are people over 40, right? Very mature crowd. It shouldn't be that way because I was like, where are the young people?
Yeah.
Where are and I don't blame you because I wasn't there when I was her age, right? I don't know how old you are, but I wasn't there when I was new in my immigration journey, so I get it, right? But the benefit of networking, right? Because when I met her, she gave me her card. She had a business card. Maybe you have a resume, whatever the case may be, right? And introduced herself. You introduced yourself to Stephen, the youth council person, and she was there and she was doing her thing, right? And I'm super, super, super proud of you for doing it. It seems simple to you, but I'm like I said, you were one of the very few people, our age group, that was in that room, right? So networking goes a long way because here we are today, right? And this is just the beginning of the journey, right? So now you have 9 months work experience. You need to get that to 12. You need your express entry score to look nice or pivot, right? Depending on how immigration is going. We know that right now express entry scores are in the 500s.
Yeah. And
we don't know where they're going with that. I do see them keep maintaining that trend unless you're in an in-demand occupation or something like that, right? So now it is post all of this now, we are going to be journey to PR, Leigh-Ann's journey to PR, right? We'll have to land her a job, but also we have to make sure that we pick out your spreadsheet, right? You're going to do your express entry rara.
Yeah.
If the end of that calculation does not equal PR, then we need to pivot.
Yeah.
Right? There's more than one options, especially when you're already here in Canada, but it depends on what you're willing to do. And this is something that I don't know if you started the masterclass episodes yet, but there's a point in the masterclass where I said, ask yourself these questions. Are you willing to move? Are you willing to learn a language? Do you have enough points? Are you willing to retake your English test, whatever the case may be? So you came post school. Right, so you're walking straight into your post-graduation work permits, right? And here is your opportunity to enter the express entry pool, but you didn't because you felt like you needed to meet XYZ before joining the express entry pool. What was that thought process? Because right now you're not in the express entry pool. So what was the thought process behind not joining? Because now you've been in Canada for
like 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Post school.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was that thought process of not going into the express entry pool? What do you think that you needed before joining?
You know what I think of it like? Have you ever played one of those RPG video games? And you've got to walk around because you've got a certain goal. There's a overall goal that you have to go on for the quest. And you have to collect all of these items before you can get to that goal. And I think in my mind, I was like, all right, I've got to get the 1 year experience. I've got to do my accreditation for my degree and stuff. And I have to do the language test. And I think after I got to Canada, I just put on these certain blinders of, okay, I need to make money because this whole journey relies on me being able to provide for myself. I didn't want to be that much of a stress on my grandaunt. She's retired. She, can't be supporting me all the time. So the first thing was finding the job. Yeah. And I didn't actually give enough thought, I guess, to figuring out the rest of stuff. I was just like, need that 1 year work experience. That's the first thing I need to do. So yeah.
And so in hindsight, what would you have done differently at the time? And it's not necessarily for you to say, oh, I regret. It's not to not regret. Yeah. It's more for the people who are coming up after you, because you're not on, your situation is not uncommon. Yeah. I spoke with somebody yesterday who by 3 months, so in November, before her work permit was going to expire in January, she hadn't done her test. She hadn't done her WES.
Oh my gosh.
She wasn't in the express entry pool.
Yeah.
And other people that I've spoken to in other provinces are waiting for this glorious 1 year experience to join the pool, right? And the thing is, right, and I think we spoke about this in my live on Sunday with Sanjay, is that you can't win the lotto if you don't have a ticket. So if you're not in the express entry pool, you literally don't stand a chance of getting picked. If they happen to like if you're in an in-demand occupation, like you don't even know, right? Yeah, if you're not on the list, if you're on the list of in-demand occupations, but you're not in the pool, you don't know, right? Are your points too low? You don't know because you're not in the pool, right? And there is Canadian experience class, but there's also federal skilled worker. Right? And you are a federal skilled worker because you have more than 3 years experience working in your country.
Oh, really? I didn't even realize it. You know why? Because I figured that federal skilled worker mean I had to have 1 year continuous work experience in Canada.
No, that's a Canadian experience class.
Okay.
So a federal skilled worker and a Canadian experience class, the only difference is that the Canadian experience class has experience in Canada. The federal skilled worker has experience outside of Canada.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. Like I went through the government website and still I just figured that they meant 1 year continuous here.
I know a lot of the questions and a lot of the mistakes and a lot of the things that are happening along the way of people's journey, that if only they had known sooner, if only I had done this sooner, could have made so much of a difference. And so when I documented in my book, so my book is called From Foreign Student to Canadian Citizen and Everything in Between. Like, I'm a very literal person when it comes to names, right? This is From Foreign Student to Canadian Citizen and Everything in Between, right? You need to know, because what I said to you is like, just join the pool. Yeah. Jump in the pool, swim. If it expires after a year, you don't get picked, join back the pool. It don't cost you anything to join the pool apart from doing your language test and doing your world education credential assessment. And hearing some world education, your education credential assessment, right? Because you are a federal skilled worker.
And I didn't even realize that, like,
right? Right? So, but you bring up a really good point about funds. Now, this is obviously something that you have to budget for. Your language test is about $300. Your credential assessment is about $300, plus or minus. So you're looking at putting aside $600. But also, like, if you're in Canada and you're working, you don't have to meet the express entry financial requirements of $14,000 in the bank. So that is the reason. That's why I asked, like, what was the thought process behind it, right? Because you have to hit all these things, and there's so many people out there just waiting for this magical thing to happen before they do this. Just do it. Just go into the pool, because then at least you know where you stand. Because at the end of it, it's going to say, here's how many points you have, here's the categories that you're in, and at least you know if you need to pivot, when to do that.
But submitting a profile is like it costs around $1,500 to submit it. No,
it costs you nothing to join the express entry pool apart from the indirect cost of your language test and your credential assessment. So those are indirect costs that have nothing to do with express entry, but they are prerequisite. So of course you have to pay that money under that. But when you're joining the pool, you're basically just joining a virtual waiting room. Okay. Right? And then if you get invitation to apply, that's where the money come in. Well, it doesn't end here. Right, this is kind of episode 1 of the series, and I'm looking forward to how things unfold. Me too. You don't hear me making any promises on here. Like, my goal is to be the support that I wish I had when I was in your spot. Like, I was never in your spot, but like, now that I know things are changing, and I see the trajectory,
Yeah.
I'm okay to be your mentor and accountability partner and career coach. And yeah, hope for the best, right? So wish her luck, wish us luck, and stay tuned for more. Thank you so much for watching. If this was at all helpful for you, please hit the like button. And if you found this helpful, share it with somebody who you think may benefit from hearing this. And subscribe. If you are new to this channel, this is a part of my series Or Immigration Stories, where we find an immigrant, whether you are new, whether you are a veteran, who has something meaningful to share. And if not, that she's at the end of her journey, even the lessons that she's learning throughout her journey. She's a federal skilled worker.
Yeah,
right?
boomer mind.
Right? Like even those little nuggets can be helpful. So we are here on YouTube Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and if you want to stay in touch, join our email list. Everything is linked below. And you keep on hearing me talk about the masterclass. Join the masterclass if you are in the immigration jungle right now and you're trying to get through it. It will be helpful to just help you to understand that this is where they're going. Here are the strategies that they're putting in place, and how do you get on their side. So all of those things are linked below, and we will see you in the next video. Bye. Sing. The one time I did it with somebody and they were frightened. They were like, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm going to clap. Don't be scared.
You know what you need? You need one of those, yeah.
Yeah, we're working on that level. We're working towards that level. So we're going to work it.